Hello from Slide Nerd and hello from Weaves. What's up, folks? In this vid, I'm going to talk about explicit intents in Android. Now, if you're a beginner in Android, you probably heard this word intent and you are confused about what it means because it means many different things in different situations. So let me go ahead in this vid and show you some brief overview of what intents are, how they work, and what you can do with them. So here we have four types of basic building blocks in Android. As you guys remember, there's activities, something with which the user interacts, something the user sees on the screen, that's an activity, right? And then there's services, something that runs in the background. And when I say background, this is where people make mistakes. It runs on the main thread. It is used for doing long running tasks like downloading a file, connecting to a mail service, connecting to a server, uploading files to a Dropbox, stuff like that, right? Those things happen inside services. Now the user doesn't see them, but actually they are started by your activities and they run independently from your activity. That is, even if your activity is off, your services may still run in the background. And then you have broadcast receivers. Broadcast receivers are people who sleep all the time, but when suddenly something happens, they wake up and they do something. For example, when your battery goes low, you can have a broadcast receiver inside your app that wakes up and shuts down all the downloading and uploading in your app, right? So that is what broadcast receivers do. And then you have this guy called an intent. Now intent is very complex term, but it's a very simple meaning. If you guys see, it's nothing but a messenger that responds to messages, right? So let me go ahead and talk about intents. What an intent does. So first thing, you have this activity over here, which is nothing but an email activity. You have a draft stuff over here. If I click on one of the drafts, it opens a new activity. Actually, this may be a fragment, but I'm assuming that it is an activity for now. So your intents are used to start new activities from wherever you are, right? It's like going to a different page in HTML, and that's what your intent actually does. So next you have is your services. If you say download service, you click on start download, your download service begins and something runs in the background. If you're downloading a big file, uploading files to Dropbox, SkyDrive, Google Drive, complex stuff, long running stuff like that, playing a music in the background, all those things are done in services. Intents are used to start services, alright. Next, you have your Android system and you have this thing called a broadcast receiver. Broadcast receiver is nothing but like an alarm. So you tell your system that you want to respond for specific events and you get a notification when those events occur. That's what your broadcast receiver is. For example, if your battery is low, then you get a notification inside your app that the battery is low if you have registered for that notification. Now this is done through intents. Now remember, again, I'm going to talk about each of these components, that is your services, broadcast receivers, in detail as we move on. But for now, all you need to know is that you can have many different events, like if your device is connected with a USB to the computer, if your Bluetooth is available, if network is not available, if you're in airplane mode. There are many other things. There are hundreds of them, guys. Trust me, the broadcast receiver stuff is massive. There are many intents you can register for and you can use them in your app to do different things, alright. And then here I talk about what is the fourth use of an intent. So here if you see, there's your launcher screen and there is this thing called main activity. Now if I show you the structure of my project, actually there are three activities: activity B, C and main. Now my question to you guys is, why only main activity is seen over here? Why not activity B? Why not activity C? The reason is, if you see the code in the manifest file, that is your Android manifest.xml, inside your main activity there is something called an intent filter, which has something called action, something called category. And if you see the other, that is your activity B and activity C, they don't have anything like that. So when you write an intent filter with an action of action.main and a category of category.launcher, you're telling the system that this activity, that is your main activity, is the entry point inside your application and it should appear on the launcher screen. Now if you copy paste these two lines, that is your intent filter line for this activity B and activity C, they will also appear on the screen in the launcher, alright. You can go ahead and try it out. So that is one of the other uses of an intent. You tell the system that which activity should appear in the list of active apps installed on your system, right? So now let's take a practical use case and understand how explicit intents work. Now there are two types of intents, one being explicit, the other being implicit. Now I will talk about them in detail as we move through, but for now all you need to know is your intent acts like a personal assistant. So if you call the guy and say that, hey, I have a black pen, I need to give it to somebody, say Mr. X, and if you tell your intent that, hey, go and give this black pen to Mr. X, your intent is gonna go to that guy Mr. X and he's gonna give the pen, right? Same way you can also take a pen from Mr. X and get it to you with you. That is another thing which you can do. Now these are explicit intents. When you know the name of the guy you're calling, or when you know the name of the activity you're calling, that becomes explicit intents. Now implicit intents are when you don't know who to call, but you know that you need to send an SMS, or you know that you need to send an email, you need to call someone, and when you know the functionality but you don't know the name of the person who's going to do that function for you, that becomes implicit intents. Now I'll talk about implicit intents in detail, but for now in this vid I'm going to talk about explicit intents only. So here, if I have my activity A and then there's my activity B, now they're both inside the same app, alright, and here my intent goes from activity A to B, calls the guy and gets my stuff running, right? So let me go ahead and show you how this code looks like in Android. So first I make an object of your intent by saying intent I is new intent. There are two things it needs. One is the context where I'm running, and two is the class. Now if you guys are beginners in Android, you're probably wondering what this context means. Context is like your hotel room service. You tell the guy that, hey, give me this, give me that, get me access to this, get me access to that, bring me coffee, bring me food, and the context is gonna do that. That's what your context basically is. It's an environment to your application or your Android operating system by which you can access all the resources. I'm gonna talk about context in detail too, but for now this is all you need to know. Then if I say start activity and I pass I inside, so I'm gonna call that activity B, right? So let me actually show you the other way of doing that. I can also say intent I is new intent with an empty bracket, alright, and then I can set the package name and the class name of that activity that I want to call. I can say that by saying I.set class name, string package name, string class name. So here I will explicitly specify who I want to call, alright, and next I'll say start activity for I. It's gonna work the same way. So I hope you guys understood the concept of intents. In the next vid I'm gonna jump into Eclipse and show you how this works right as a hands-on application, alright. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, comment, let me know what you think about this. I'll catch you guys later. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching.